Good afternoon, trustee, staff, and member of the public who are joining our October 14, 2025 Public Learning, Equity, and Wellbeing Standing Committee meeting. Regrets has been received from Trustee Wright. This meeting is called to order. The chair will acknowledge Trustee Namun to do land acknowledgement. Thank you, Trustee Namun.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We affirm that we are the treaty people and acknowledge that the York Region District School Board is located on the lands of the two treaties. These treaties have been signed with the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation and the First Nations of the Williams Treaties, who are the Mississaugas of the Alderville, Cove Lake, Hiawatha, Schuylkill Island, and the Chippewas of Bosele, Rama, and Georgina Island, who is our closest neighbor and partner in education. To honor this agreement, we will take up our responsibility to be respectful of their traditions, knowledge, and inherent rights as sovereign nations. We will respect their relationship with these lands and recognize that our connection to this land is through the continued relationship with these First Nations, and we acknowledge our shared responsibility to respect and care for the land and the waters for future generations. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Trustee Mamun. So approval of the agenda. Without objection, the agenda as presented shall be adopted. Is there any objections? Seeing and hearing none, without objection, the agenda is adopted. Declaration of a conflict of interest. At this time, the chair would ask any trustee who has a direct personal interest or direct or indirect pecuniary interest in any matter being discussed by the board during this meeting to state the conflict and nature thereof. Seeing and hearing none, so we move to approval of the minutes. The minutes of the September 16, 2025 Learning, Equity, and Wellbeing Standing Committee meeting have been distributed to all trustees. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Seeing and hearing none, as there are no corrections, the minutes are approved as presented. Delegations. The committee delegation approved at the September 29, 2025 Governance and Board Organization Committee meetings will delegate at the November 18, 2025 Learning, Equity, and Wellbeing Standing Committee meeting due to the delegation's availability. So any trustee have any questions? Okay, seeing and hearing none, so we move to board reports. A, Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Strategy, DABRS Information Report. Before the committee is the Dismantle Anti-Black Racism Strategy, DABRS Information Report. It's here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Schools, Programs, and Equitable Outcomes, K.Q, Coordinating Superintendent of Education, Equity Inclusive School and Community Services, Research and Assessment Services, Loris Aga, Coordinating Superintendent of Education, Curriculum and Instructional Services and Continuing Education, Gulin Gibbon, and Coordinating Superintendent of Education, Student Services and Wellbeing, Wendy Howe, to present this report. So thank you, staff.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Good evening, trustees. I'd like to introduce that I have members of my team here with me. So Sherry Morgan, Principal of ISCS and Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Strategy, as well as Research and Assessment, Urihan Sani, the Manager of Research and Assessment. So thank you. So good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to provide an update on the Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Strategy. And I'll just give it a moment for the slide deck to come up. Tonight's presentation highlights how the strategy continues to create meaningful impact for students, staff, families. It focuses on progress made across 6 foci areas between May and September 25th and demonstrates how our system is intentionally aligning this work to the multi-year strategic plan and the director's action plan. Just waiting a moment for the slide deck to come up. Thank you. And so the second slide, if we move on to the second slide, this evening I'll briefly walk through the purpose of this report, outline the structure of the strategy, and then highlight key outcomes and stories of impact from each of the 6 foci areas. The presentation will conclude with next steps and time for any questions or reflections from trustees. The next slide, please. This slide on the purpose here, the purpose of this report is to update trustees on the implementation of the Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Strategy and reaffirm our collective commitment to racial equity for Black students and staff. The strategy ensures that system-wide accountability and transparency as we address anti-Black racism and work to close long-standing gaps in achievement, well-being, and access. The next slide, please. Our progress is anchored in 6 foci and continuous improvement, or foci groups. These cross-departmental teams hold the system accountable by aligning actions, measuring progress, and ensuring that our work is coordinated across divisions. Each group focuses on a specific goal area to support measurable, equitable outcomes for Black students and staff. The next slide, please. The 6 foci areas, as outlined there for you, reflect the comprehensive approach to dismantling dismantling systemic barriers from early learning to post-secondary pathways. Together, they address student engagement, representation in special education, equitable access to specialty programs, awareness and interventions for anti-Black racism, pathways to post-secondary success, and fair restorative approaches to discipline. The next slide, please. Between May and September 25, each foci area advanced key initiatives that directly improve student outcomes and system practices. You'll hear examples that illustrate measurable progress, including stronger student engagement, new partnerships with families, and evidence of cultural shifts in how we support, assess, and discipline students. Next slide, please. This foci area focuses on strengthening culturally responsive supports and building meaningful partnerships with Black families and communities. Over the summer, 3 major initiatives were implemented: Camp Black Brilliance, the Y2 Legacy Program, and the Credit Attainment Program. Together, they offered intentional, identity-affirming learning spaces that nurtured academic success, leadership development, and stronger family-school connections. The next slide, please. Specifically with Camp Black Brilliance supported young children's transition into formal schooling through culture responsive and play-based learning. Families consistently described the camp as a safe and joyful space where their children's brilliance was recognized and celebrated. Feedback showed 100% of the families felt their child was better prepared for school and more confident to begin the new year. This program continues to lay the foundation for future achievement, belonging, and trust between families and schools. The next slide, which speaks to family voices. Parents shared deeply moving reflections about their children's growth, not only academically, but in identity and self-worth. One parent said it was wonderful to have a camp that acknowledged the brilliance of Black kids in the community. These voices remind us that affirming spaces in early learning builds pride, confidence, and resilience. values that extend far beyond the classroom. The next slide, please. The Y2 Legacy Program continues to be a model of culture-responsive, credit-bearing learning. Students participated in 4 high-impact courses spanning from grade 8 to grade 12, including partnerships with York University. 95% of the students achieved at or above the provincial standard, and student feedback highlighted gains in confidence, leadership, and belonging. This program is transforming how students see themselves as innovators and leaders within and beyond school. The following is a video highlighting the Y2 Legacy experience, and at this time I'll ask if the video can be played.
My experience in the Y2 Legacy program has been amazing. It's super fun. You get to learn a lot of stuff about my history that I didn't even know of.
It's a very good program for wanting to be a leader.
The York Region District School Board, working in partnership with York University, created Y2 Legacy, a Black-centered approach to leadership, innovation, and excellence.
This year, the Y2 Legacy offered 4 courses to students over the summer.
Through credit-bearing courses in technology, literature, business, leadership, and community engagement, students gain hands-on experience that prepare them for the future with mentorship, collaboration, and a supportive learning environment. They leave each summer ready to navigate the school year with strength and leadership.
We are currently at York University in Winters College.
We design a number of experiential activities around Black accomplishment. So hopefully the kids will be inspired to put their best foot forward.
The people here are amazing. I met some incredible teachers. They taught me a lot of things.
We've done group activities where you're able to connect with others, listen to others' ideas, and also feel like your opinions are being heard as well.
We actually went on a couple of field trips. We went to the ROM and we went to visit Carnegie Hall to learn about Irv Carnegie. We've also had a lot of guest speakers in here to teach us about a lot of useful stuff. One that I found really interesting was about credit, and I found that really helpful.
One of the things I enjoyed the most would be the True Colors activity. So we learned how to manage or how to get along with different personalities.
It provides a learning environment where I see more people of my race or more people like me. So there's a greater sense of belonging here.
This summer, NACA's Kumba Summer Camp at Terry Fox Public School has combined STEM activities with sports and recreational activities, as well as provided a deep focus on Black history, heritage, and leadership.
This summer, I was working with NACA's Kumba Camp as a co-op placement. My favorite part of the camp would probably be building connections with the kids, understanding the kids, and just watching the connections grow and just seeing the joy on their faces. I enjoy seeing them every single day.
As the days went on, the campers got closer and closer with each other, and then they built really meaningful relationships with their counselors.
NACA is such a great community, and it's just such a fun, fulfilling camp, and any kid should be welcome to come.
This course has been really fun. It's a different twist on English, of course, and I feel like it's a nice alternative way to learn, and it helped me a lot.
My favorite part of this program was definitely doing our slam poetry. We could write about anything, and it was just it was fun.
We learned about a lot of cultural things, about Black culture and African American culture, so it's been really fun. Every single day, at the end of the day, you do a little art. It's different. It's not just English. You do a little bit of art twisted things. It's a nice brain break at the end of the day.
I find everyone here is really accepting, and it's easy to make friends just right off the bat, even on the first day. Really nice hands-on projects, and you're also working on the computer with the AutoCAD and learning how to code.
We're doing bottle rocket project, which is super fun, where we made water bottles with pressurized air and we launched them. 3, 2, 1. But it's been a blast so far, and I can't wait to do more.
The Grade 9 Technology and the Grade 10 English courses are open to students of all identities. The Grade 11 Co-op and Grade 12 Business Leadership are exclusive to Black identifying students, designed to foster specialized identity-affirming experiences.
Thank you. As you heard, students describe the program as life-changing, a space where they could see themselves reflected in both the curriculum and their instructors. One student shared that the program made me feel like I belonged in spaces that don't usually include people who look like me. These reflections underscore how representation and identity-affirming learning empowers students to take academic and personal risks, preparing them for future success. It's important to know that these students travel from the far east and far north areas of our region for the school board on public transit and arrive to school on time for 8:30 at York University every day for the entire month of July. I think this speaks to the testament of their engagement. Students attended daily, on time, and were engaged, and their marks are a reflection of this engagement. The next slide, please. Parents also emphasized how their children's engagement and achievement were transformed. Families noted that students who had previously disengaged were now excited to learn, often sharing their new knowledge at home. Parents linked this to the sense of safety, cultural relevance, and belonging the program fostered. It's a reminder that when learning spaces are affirming, students thrive academically and emotionally. The next slide, please. Sorry, the next one as well. Thank you. This year, we initiated a pilot using, wrong slide here. Through the Dabbers Credit Attainment Program, Black students had opportunities to earn or recover credits within identity-affirming environments that celebrated high expectations and partnerships with families. 94% of participants successfully earned credits. The program's design shows how trust, cultural responsiveness, and strong relationships directly improve student outcomes and confidence. So thank you. We'll look at the next slide. So going on to another foci area, this year, we initiated the pilot using the Naglari General Abilities Test, a culturally responsive gifted screening tool. Pilot schools were selected with a high representation of Black and Indigenous students to ensure equitable access. This work challenges historical biases in assessment and moves us towards more accurate and inclusive identification practices that recognize diverse forms of intelligence and potential. The next slide. In this foci area, this area focuses on improving access to specialty programs and strengthening culturally responsive approaches in early learning. Efforts include multilingual and identity-affirming communication strategies so families are better informed about opportunities. Professional learning has also deepened educators' understanding of racial identity development, ensuring that conversations about race and belonging are part of the everyday practice in early years. The next slide, please. This foci group is supporting superintendents delivering professional learning to administrators, which will in turn be delivered to staff with the focus on historical and systemic context of anti-Black racism. Using the Dabbers traffic light tool, which has been created by our curriculum department, and the Sankofa series, this learning helps leaders and educators to recognize and disrupt bias in curriculum, assessment, and everyday school interactions. The next phase will be to extend this professional learning to non-school-based staff to ensure consistent system-wide capacity building. And the next slide. The newly established Guidance Head think tank represents a major step forward in dismantling barriers in guidance practices. Heads from every secondary school are collaborating to identify and remove systemic obstacles that have historically limited access for Black students. This work is strengthening equitable pathways and ensuring that every student's potential is recognized and supported through data-informed, inclusive approaches. The next slide, please. Revisions to Student Incident Guide were informed by consultation with more than 150 administrators and the Dabbers Foci teams. The guide now emphasizes trauma-informed, bias-aware, and restorative practices instead of punitive measures. In addition, the resource was supported with professional learning provided to over 180 administrators. This work will contribute to a cultural shift, one where discipline is viewed as an opportunity for support, reflection, and relationship repair. And the next slide, please. So this update This update shows tangible progress in our shared commitment to dismantling systemic and anti-Black racism in education by being transparent, taking accountability, and a shared ownership of the work across the system. Together, we're building a system where Black students and staff experience belonging, success, and pride every day. Our commitment remains clear. Dismantling anti-Black racism is essential to student achievement, well-being, and the integrity of public education. And with that, I'll take questions. Thank you.
Yeah. The chair recognizes Trustee Butterworth to ask question.
Thank you very much for the report. Really exciting to hear the feedback about the summer programs and all of the great work that you're doing. So a couple of questions. Regarding the assessment, the culturally responsive gifted screening assessment, you had mentioned this in a previous report that we were piloting this. So we've selected students and they've been, so I'm assuming this is grade 3 because it's gifted testing, and we screen students and we're looking at results. Are we comparing to see if this test, are we doing the old test on the kids, the same groups of students, with the new test to see if what we're looking for is the outcome we want in terms that we're being culturally responsive? So I guess that's a yes or no question. So
I think it's a little longer than that. If you wouldn't mind, I'll turn it over to Coordinating Superintendent Wendy House to elaborate.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I have a part 2, but you
thank
start.
you,
Go
and
ahead.
through you, Coordinating Superintendent Agard and Trustee Butterworth and Chair Liang. The short answer is yes. This year, we are in partnership with Research and Assessment Services, running both the CCAT, which is the normal assessment that we have been using, and the NGAT, which is the Naglieri general assessment. And we will be doing research based on, so they will be done in cohorts of grade 3 classrooms, and then we will be doing a comparison with research to see what that yields and whether that should be where we move forward with the same Naglieri or the CCAT.
Awesome. Excellent. Okay, that's great. I like that. And then the second piece, the business, or the piece about access to post-secondary pathways. Are we tracking students, our Black students, in terms of, so you're nodding your head, so yes. So we're tracking them in terms of when they say start in grade 9, how long it's taking them to get credits, and so on, and seeing, you know, that all the work we're doing is working and helping Black students graduate. Can you elaborate on that?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Just one moment. And so we have been tracking the data through the leadership of Erhan Sena for, I would say, no less than 5 years. And so we have the data on where students who identify as Black are going post-secondary, the amount of years that it's taking them to complete their program. And with that information, that is how we've informed some of our practices, like engaging the guidance counselors, like connecting directly with high schools in regards to analyzing their own data and the pathway planning that they're providing for students, as well as why it was determined to offer the grade 12 business leadership at York University. So similar to the last one, yes, we are tracking and using that to inform the practices and then measuring to see where we're gaining momentum.
That's awesome. I love the data, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So the chair recognizes Trustee Cohen to ask question.
Thank you very much, Chair. I have a few questions. First of all, I was wondering, how did we market these excellent programs? How do the parents know about them, or is it through teachers? I wasn't quite sure. Do you want to hear all the questions?
Yes, please.
Okay, just short ones. The second one is, did the children attend by choice, or is it something, because we said they were previously not motivated academically, so how did we inspire them to join these programs voluntarily? And the third one, how many children are involved in these programs, And were there waiting lists, or do we have a number that is full capacity? How did we work with numbers? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll start with the first question in regards to how the program is marketed. The program came about from collaboration. So last year, August 2024, in collaboration with community, we reassessed some of the summer programs that we were running. We held a town hall, and the community at that time determined that we needed to make some changes to the program. So working with community, working with various specific parents who were supporting various advocacy groups, working with them design the program. As well as we advertised, so we have monthly sessions where we hold with for Black families, so conference calls once a month. And so the information was shared out there. The information was shared out. Sherry personally delivered the information for all of our programs to schools. It was listed. We asked schools to also share that out in their weeklies to community, as well as we shared it out through the community groups as well. So they shared it out with them. So we used all the vehicles available to us to share that information out. To address your second question, as well as guidance heads, right? So sharing that with the high school programs and so forth. And Con Ed has a regular roster of programs that run in the summer, and it was added to that list as well. So in regards to the numbers of students that attended, we obtained enough students to run a class for each. So there was a grade, a tech course that was offered for grade 8 students coming to grade 10. There was an English class offered for students who were going to, in grade 10, to learn English. And then there was a grade 12 business course. So we ran enough sections to run a section of each. There were no wait lists. I know that in some cases, we had to redirect students to what would be more appropriate courses for them. And so we had those conversations with parents and families, as well as in regards to how did we motivate the students? When the students heard about the program, so again, and the reality is students made the choice to attend. And I think as we heard from the students that they were feeling supported, they were feeling heard, and so their desire to attend was because of the development and the design of the program. So and again, as shared, that students came across the region on public transit, we're glad to attend the program. As well as we did support for some of our younger students, we did support transportation for the younger grade 8s that might have been coming from Newmarket. We didn't put them on public transit. It was the high school, the older grade 11, grade 12 students, but the younger students we did support with transit. And they came, and again, all achieving well, all achieving provincial standards or higher.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. So the chair recognizes Trustee Mamun to ask question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Fantastic work, right? But like always, I have always one question, right? How do we ensure that the great work which we are doing is known to out there, people who are doing it for? So I understand that the parents or the students who are being engaged, my worry has always been that we're doing this for the community. This is part of the strategy. We have a 5-year strategy, and then I want to make sure that there are mechanisms how we ensure that the community is receptive of that and they're getting it and that they know that what are we doing for them, right? So just wanted to understand how we ensure that information is passed on to them. And then that's how it is also reaching the masses, right? We're not only confined to, I understand that whenever we want to run this program, we go to selected areas, selected schools where we know that the number of students our target is there, and we have enough to fill the class. But again, I don't want our programs to be seen as we're just handpicking the people, right? It is out there, it has to be out there, and the people should be aware of it out large in the community. So just be mindful of that, and then I want to know if there's anything being done on that part. And Madam Chair, I think Trustee Cohen touched on the number of students, so we had enough for filling in the class. If you don't mind, especially on the credit attainment class, we were targeting Indigenous and Black students, may I know what's the number and what is the percentage? And then if we achieve the target, we were trying to get it from these two marginalized communities.
Yeah, so the credit attainment program had, I want to say, 23 students in it. And so these were students who had in previous year combination might have not been engaged and therefore weren't attaining credits that way, might have attempted credits and were not successful. And so this was a specific group of students where teachers identified, so their guidance counselors identified that they would benefit from this environment, and where we then had them working with a teacher who was doing several things, working with families and affirming identities, as well as helping them with their academics. And in that, there was one student that was not successful in that program. And to your other question about how do we ensure community knows, and how do we ensure that we're building programs that are sustained and then shared throughout the region, one of the things that we did do this year, and again, that came from the town hall that we had with community, was to engage community with it. So the partnership, as you saw with NACA, part of that was where we hosted a co-op student with their program. So when you involve community, then they are part of the foundation of it, which then helps to leverage that sustainability, because quite frankly, when we all go home, the community remains here, and it's a community that supports the students. So how do we ensure that what we're building is building with community? As well as we do have a Dismantling Anti-Black Racism Steering Committee, which we share this information with, and again, through those vehicles, try to ensure that it's out there in the community. But absolutely, working with comms. So comms did a fabulous video here that we want to showcase, as well as putting it out on our social media, as well as when we know that parents are looking for summer programs, we want to make sure that information is out and early.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. The chair recognizes Trustee McCarthy to ask question.
Thank you, Chair Liang. And thank you, Coordinating Superintendent Agar, for that really exciting presentation. I'm really excited to see all that work taking place and all the hard work paying off, and happy to hear the feedback. My colleagues here did take my questions, so I do appreciate the answers to those questions. And I just didn't want to miss the opportunity to say how deeply we appreciate the hard work that's going in, and we can see clearly from the students' faces how important this work is. So please continue the work, and let us know if there's anything we can do to help support that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. Okay. The chair recognizes Trustee Butterworth to ask a second question.
I thought Trustee McCarthy was going to ask, so she didn't, so I will ask. I just want to know, just where do we go from here? Like, it's, you know, if we were, I always remember as a staff member, we always got that stop, start, continue thing. If, I realize it could be a detailed question, I don't want all the details, but from your feedback from the summer programs especially, that's what I'm focusing on, and from the feedback that you got and so on, where do you see us going from here? What was great, sounded like it all was. Anything that needs to be tweaked, do you think that we should know about? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We are currently still in the stage of seeking feedback through our research and assessment department. We will be looking at students' achievements, how they're doing now that they're back in schools. There were family surveys as well, as you saw. We're going to continue to analyze that data and then track again with the students and families to see what the impact of that programming was. We know in previous years that we have seen the impact, but we want to be able to quantify that as well. And so we're also going to be connecting back with our community partners to look to see what were some of the thoughts that we might change, and it might be things around what tweaks can we continue to make to curriculum so that it's current, so getting curriculum to weigh in on that. What can we do? Definitely, I know that we're having conversations right now to ensure that our programs are accessible for a variety of students, as well as, again, how do we ensure that students have access to the programs coming from various parts of the region.
Okay, thank you, and I concur with all of my colleagues. Sounds like you're doing an amazing job. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Trustee Cohen to ask second question.
Thank you, Chair. Very brief. Because it's such a wonderful program, I was wondering, do we have the finances to expand the program in the future? That's
Thank you for the question. At current time, the program is sustainable as is, and that's something that, because of how the funding works in Con Ed, and I turn to Coordinating Superintendent Jillian to talk about how funding for summer school programs work, but they pretty much have to cover themselves in order to run. So that's, I don't know if you want to add anything, Jillian.
Thank you for that, and through you, Chair Liang. Each year we make decisions based on interest, so we'll put it out and we'll see what interest there are, and if there's enough interest to run multiple sections so that it's funded, then we will look into those options. But every year it's done based on really the interest. So we keep working to build up the numbers and offer great programming for kids.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The chair have one question. I want to ask the percentage of a student has benefit from this program. Do we have that data?
The percentage?
Yeah, percentage of student benefit for for the program.
Not sure I have it as a percentage.
Okay. Yeah. So the chair, can director answer the question?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think what you're looking for is the number of students that participated in the program and the percentage of those students that benefited from the program.
Yes, that's right.
So I'll be bold and say 100% of the students benefited from the program.
Yeah.
I think that the group would probably support me with that answer without getting into the data. But they're still tracking data in regards to credit achievement and credit accumulation as the students track through their programs, and that will give conclusive data for that. Is that helpful?
Actually, I try to ask, for example, if 100 students in YRDSB, right? So you see 50 students participate into program, or is 20% of students participate into the program? So I asked how many percentage of students participate into those programs?
Thank you for the question. So we had about 80, because we had about 80 students participate between the credit attainment as well as the Y2 Legacy program.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you. So let's move to B. Equity and Inclusivity Advisory Committee Annual Report, September 2024 to June 2025. Before the committee is the Equity and Inclusivity Advisory Committee Annual Report, September 2024 to June 2025 is here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Schools, Program and Equitable Outcome, Kai Dyer-Q, and Coordinating Superintendent of Education, Equity, Inclusive School, and Community Services, Research and Assessment Services, Loris Aga, to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Chair. So the Equity and Inclusivity Advisory Committee continues to advance the board's commitment to equitable and inclusive learning and working environments. From September 2024 to June 2025, the committee provided input and recommendations that supported all priorities of the multi-year strategic plan, with a focus on affirming diverse identities to strengthen student achievement and well-being. Throughout the year, members delivered key presentations on street data, empathetic education. They provided updates on the dismantling anti-Black racism strategy, including partnerships with the York Region Children's Aid Society to promote Black affirming and anti-racist practices. IEAC also reviewed the multi-year strategic plan, the parent dashboard, and the 2025-2026 budget to ensure equity and inclusion remain central to board planning through collaboration among community members, trustees, students, and staff. EAC continues to build trust, strengthen relationships, and ensure that diverse voices shape the system's direction.
Yeah, thank you. So any trustee have any questions? Seeing and hearing none, so we move to C, Indigenous Education Advisory Council IEAC Annual Report, September 2024 to June 2025. Before the committee is the Indigenous Education Advisory Council IEAC Annual Report, September 2024 to June 2025, is here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Schools, Programs, and Equitable Outcomes, Kai Darkyu, and Coordinating Superintendent of Education, Equity Inclusive School and Community Services, Research and Assessment Services, Loris Aga, to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair, the Indigenous Education Advisory Committee, Indigenous students, families, and elders committees are better positioned to thrive mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and physically when they feel valued, affirmed, and have access to their culture. It's our mission to advance education services for Indigenous students who attend the York Region District School Board that promote and protect Indigenous languages, Indigenous cultures, and Indigenous ways of seeing, knowing, relating, and doing improving educational outcomes and the lives of Indigenous students and their families. And with that, the IEAC committee had opportunities to support the BAP, so the Board Action Plan, which talks about how specific funding from the ministry is used to support Indigenous education and the 6 priorities that are listed under that, as well as to inform the multi-year strategic plan, as well as currently that will be coming up for review, the Indigenous Education Policy Review, and doing that in accordance with our education agreement, as well as looking at various educational professional development proposals from various departments within the board and ensuring that they are done in a good way and supporting our Indigenous communities, as well as working through summer wellness kits that again support students of Indigenous backgrounds, specifically looking at our students in Georgina Islands, ensuring that they're supported. And with that, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for Loris Argat for providing this report. Trustees, are there any questions? The chair recognizes Trustee Butterworth to ask questions.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the report. Just a question, because I'm not on IEAC or EAC for that matter, but I'm looking at the engagement opportunities, number 2, where council members were given the opportunity to offer suggestions to the idea of separating Indigenous education and the equity strategy into 2 strategies. Is there any info on that? Can you elaborate on that? Are we going to be doing that? And thank you.
Thank you for the question. That is work that we continue to do. Currently, our Indigenous education and equity strategy are connected, and knowing that Indigenous First Nation, Métis, Inuit folks are sovereignty people, so not equity-seeking people, it is important that as part of our progress that we look to separate those strategies, and then that also brings us in alignment with our multi-year strategic plan. So that is work we continue to do.
Thank you. So the chair recognizes Trustee Cohan to ask question.
Thank you, Chair. Lois, could you please remind me of the difference between equity seeking and Sovereign, what is it called? Sovereign? Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. And I guess the best way to describe it is knowing that this land belonged to First Nation people before we as settlers joined it. They were not looking, so First Nation, Métis, Inuit peoples were not looking to us to govern them. And so they are self-governing, had their own rules and laws prior to us settling here. And as it relates to equity-seeking people, similar to the work that I presented with dismantling anti-Black racism, we're looking for folks who tend to be on the margins. So whether groups of 2S LGBTQIA+, groups who identify from various racial groups, and where they are treated differently because of how we're engaged within a Western environment. So equity seeking is making sure that those that are perceived as different have the same opportunity. So when we have an inclusive environment and bringing folks together, that they are honored for who they are as individuals, and their individual personalities and beliefs are also created, have a space, so that you're not trying to be something else, but you have an ability to be who you are in this environment.
So just as a follow-up, okay? So don't the Indigenous people also feel that they're not always treated equitably? Like, are they part of that as well, or?
100%. Hence anti-Indigenous racism. And so there are two focuses, but again, sovereignty, making sure that folks have self-governing, their entitled rights as the first people of this land, and of course that they want to be treated equally as well.
Yeah, thank you. The chair recognizes Trustee McCarthy to ask question.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you again, Coordinating Superintendent Agar, for that report. I understand and recognize the difference between equity seekers and sovereign people. Thank you. I do have a question, though. I learned that we're two canoes going down at the same time. So the canoe of the Indigenous people control what they're doing. So my question is, are there any plans to do a Camp Indigenous Brilliance, for example? And is that something that we would control, or is that something the Indigenous Council would control? You may or may not know the answer to that, but thank you. Through you, Chair.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Chair. Most definitely that is work we're doing, and of course nothing without us. And so absolutely when we're working and doing projects with the Georgina Island, there's representatives that guide that work. I know that this year we attempted some programs, but we're not able to bring them to fruition. We've already started to work to ensure that that happens next year. And I know that there are other programs that we're constantly working on together, various, as you said, working in collaboration, in partnership, and looking at various programs, not just for summer per se, but also throughout the year.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Seeing and hearing none, so we don't have any trustee name appearing to the speaker list. So we move to the Parent, Family, and Community Engagement Advisory Committee, PIAC, Annual Report September 2024 to June 2025. Before the committee is the Parent, Family, and Community Engagement Advisory Committee, PIAC, Annual Report September 2024 to June 2025 is here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Schools, Programs, and Equitable Outcomes, Neil Ganathan, and Superintendent of Education, Leadership Development and Engagement Grant Forthorth, to present this report. Thank you.
Through you, Chair Liang. If you refer to page 39 and 51 in our pages in front of us, that's the annual report, but I'll give us a brief summary of some highlights, I guess, of what it entails. So just to begin, I'll give you a little highlight in terms of PAC, it stands for Parent, Family, and Community Engagement Advisory Committee, PAC, which advises the board on matters pertaining to the support and strengthening of engagement of parents, families, and communities. So a few highlights of our work included in the annual report that I'll speak to just briefly right now. So one, we hosted an orientation session to welcome and onboard new PAC members. That was November 21 of last year. We had a member selection subcommittee reviewing 91 eligible applications. So we had about a 75% increase, which again is included in the report, of applicants from the previous year, so a significant uptick. We hosted 5 school council forums across the YRDSB. That's in 2 in the north, so across the 4 regions and 2 in the north. We had 600 attendees, consisting of parents, caregivers, and community members. Also, it included trustees and YRDSB staff, including PAC members as well. So in excess of 600 participants. We also organized a regional symposium last year with 250 school administrators and, 387 participants, which included parents, families, and community members. And we had 250 school administrators and staff that also took part. The attendees had an opportunity to take part in workshops. So these workshops, as part of PAC last year, and the symposium included workshops on artificial intelligence, impacts of vaping and cell phone use, literacy, supporting math learning at home, understanding youth exploitation, and the navigation of media. So those are some workshops that we had available at the symposium. We also had presentations, part of ongoing learning in PAC in 2024 and 2025. And it included learning on topics such as supporting student learning and personal mobile device use, vaping. Also, we had a talk on the new multi-year strategic plan, a review of that, board and school funding, and how AI is impacting learning. And we also had a presentation on the district action plan. And finally, we had 95 schools completing their PRO, the Pro Grant Project event, which was an increase from the year before. And I think there was an increase of 10 applicants, which is all included in the report with the pages identified. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Grant, for providing this report. So any trustee have any questions? The chair recognizes Trustee Cohen to ask question.
Thank you, Chair. I was wondering, do we ever track the number of parents throughout the whole board who attend parent council meetings? Just curious. And has it increased or decreased, say, within the last 5 years? I know that's specific, but just generally. Thank you.
So through you, Chair Liang, and to you, Trustee Cohen, I can speak to specifically the involvement of parents that were at the school council forum. So there was a significant uptick in that. We had about, I think I said 600 participants, that consists of parents or families or stakeholders that are participating in the school councils at each of the schools. So our turnout at those events was significant, and we tracked that well. What happens at school councils, that's tracked by schools. We, to my knowledge, don't have the exact data of the meeting attendance at all school councils throughout the year. Schools would have a better handle on that piece, but we did have 600 plus participants that all came together for the forums, which consists of members of the school councils at each of the schools. So there was great representation in all 4 regions. We saw, and many of the trustees were in attendance at those events as well. So there was a great crowd at those and involvement in those. So we do track those numbers well, but the actual meetings themselves, probably best getting that data from the schools.
Yeah, the chair will recognize Trustee Butterworth to ask the next question, and then so later Trustee Cohen will ask second question.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. An observation and a question. So first, a 75% increase in applications in the PAC applications, like to be on the PAC committee. Is that true? That's
That's
excellent.
correct, yep.
Okay, so that's obviously it's a positive experience, so people want to be a part of that, which is great. Second, involving the grant applications, and I think I'm on the right page, where 110 schools submitted proposals and received the pro-grant funding. Are you able to give an example or a couple of examples of the types of engagement that parents are, or these school councils are applying for grants for? Like give an example of what this money is going to, say, in the specific schools.
Yeah, so I can speak to both of those. I think there was, the first piece is in terms of there was an uptick, and so we did see an uptick in applications, and you can see there in terms of 95 participating schools as opposed to 85 the year before, so there's been an increase. So an example of projects would include, and not exclusively, but in terms of learning that would take place with the school council, so whether they would embark on a workshop, have a speaker in, participate in some kind of collective learning that they had all received, or there was some consensus on, and they would apply, and these applications are reviewed. And so that would be an example of some that, and there's a committee and a grouping of people that review those and would approve. And so the criteria is identified, and it's something that we put a huge push on throughout the year, and are very hopeful that schools take up those opportunities for those monies to be distributed to those places, and so, or to those schools. The school council's looking for that, and so we were quite pleased with, and the criteria is quite specific and laid out, and so a 10 count increase is quite significant. And so learning, to your question, learning initiatives and so forth, projects that they're embarking on that they want to take part in, and so funding specifically for that.
And how much money, are we looking at? If they're would it be $1,000 or something like that each school, or is it depending on the project?
Yeah, it's. I mean, again, it's not a huge amount of money.
Right.
Again, so why we're looking at smaller initiatives, and so again, that's the total for all 95 schools.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking not in excess of $1,000 thereabouts.
Mm-hmm.
But so yeah, so in terms of, but it does count for something. And again, school councils aren't some overseeing large quantities at
Right.
times, and this is something specifically for their initiative. So.
Okay, awesome. Are they allowed to, say a family of schools could put in one application? I'm assuming yes. Okay, I'm good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Trustee Manmun to ask question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So excellent program. I'm going to talk on that, right? So I've been chair before becoming a trustee for good 12 years. I've always taken that $1,000 and then arranged the programs. It's an excellent opportunity. Just a feedback on that is that I still feel that there's a need for some sort of central controls from the board rather than leaving the schools as their own, because it's separated engagement. Not all of them can make the best use of $1,000 we give it to them. And I know that there's always the work being done, but that's something which I think, and the reason why I'm saying is central control, that way we can also have a repository of all the presentations, the good presentations sometimes are being done at the schools, and then can be referenced back from time to time, or through other means, or the schools can also benefit from that. So if that becomes available through the PAC, we can let parents know that here's the repository, 95 out of 95, maybe 80 were presentations, they are available, and they can have those as part of their school councils or any other events they wanted to run it by. So I think that can be leveraged on that, spending the same amount of money. Sorry. One last question. So 15 of those applicants who could not make or could not get the projects through, I'm sure there must be reasons, right? They didn't come through, they didn't feel that they ever had a good proposal or whatever was that. I suggest that we should have a way that we can guide those parents, because they took an initiative, they made a proposal and couldn't get through. Maybe there's a way that we can give them a feedback on what they were lacking, or timing, or whatever was that is needed. So a help can be provided to those so that they come back in the future years as well. Thank you very much.
Through you, Chair Liang, and to speak to Trustee Mahmood regarding that piece. So we have a principal in our Leadership Development and Engagement Department that specifically works with schools and assists, but you're absolutely right in terms of supports, and and it gets to Trustee Butterworth's point as well too, in terms of we have over 200 schools, and we see that 95 were the recipients, and some school councils, in terms of attendance, are in different circumstances and different abilities to make applications and to follow through in certain initiatives. Participation levels vary from school council to school council, but we do have a principal in our department that assists with schools and is able to walk, and not only that, we have not only a principal, but there was a manager as well that was assigned specifically to overseeing and helping school councils with their applications, working with them on that and helping to oversee. But you're absolutely right in terms of a central overview of that piece, other than the committee, the selection committee. We're relying on our department to assist those school councils, and they have different capacities and different comfort levels and familiarity with that application process, but we do the best we can with the resources we have, but I certainly appreciate the comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Trustee Cohen to ask the second question.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not sure about this, but is it true that the councils can apply for grants outside of our school, nothing to do with our school? That sometimes it's for planting trees or for shade or different reasons. Is there any way that parents are supported in how to apply for grants? Because I know that in certain schools, perhaps they're ESL parents, parents who are not familiar with how to do that. And I know that in a school in my community, one of the parents was very good at figuring out how to get grants, but I can see that a lot of parents wouldn't know how to do that. Is there anywhere parents can go for support in how to, to maneuver through that maze of applications and so on? Thank you.
The director would like to answer the question, right?
Oh, thank you. Sure. Thank you, Trustee Ling. Grant, I don't mean to steal your thunder. I'll jump in and then you can help. How's that?
Sure.
Thank you, Trustee Cohen. So we have a number of partnerships. It's an excellent question. We have an example right now that a school is working through the facilities services staff with Associate Director Maharaj around a partnership program with the Lake Simcoe Conservation Authority around a tree canopy at a particular school site. And so there's a number of steps and stages that are involved with various other community groups that are looking for the opportunity to provide things in schools. I would absolutely direct them always to go with their principal and their superintendent to start there, and then they will work with the appropriate department and team here within the board to support whatever that application may be. There's a number of things, and the reason I share that particular tree canopy one is in regard to it is a site that we've had some recent issues, and the tree canopy has been reduced, and so facilities staff is able to go through the site plan process, which you have to do through the municipality, because people think, oh, we're going to plant 100 trees. Well, 100 trees are going to grow up and be very big one day, and so we have to make sure that we know what the care and what the program is going to be for those in the future. And so those are the kinds of things to support these kind of application processes, always within the support of the school principal and the superintendent, and then the various staff and department support. And I just share that example. Grant jumped in to share that example because it's a very recent one that's come through, and I think kind of aligns with what Trustee Cohen is looking for information on, because we do have a number of folks that are very resourceful, and we're looking forward to them also being resourceful as we launch the foundation, our student foundation, in supporting the work of the student foundation. So we're looking forward to brokering those partnerships in that endeavor as well. So thank you for the question. Grant, I don't know if you want to contribute anything different.
No, just through Trustee, again, Chair Liang, Yeah, so in terms of our department works with hand in glove with the school councils, but also, as Director said, the principal and the superintendents of those schools to assist. And so we've got a principal and also somebody in the corporate side too as well that can assist in navigating that as well. But we work hand in glove with the superintendent, the school superintendent, and as well as the principal. So it's the first points of contact. So thank you, Director. Absolutely, that's a great example. Yeah, but we certainly are familiar with that, can assist school councils, and understanding completely too that school councils are at different levels of participation or familiarity, or and so that's what we're there for as well, as a resource in leadership development and engagement, and happy to support.
Thank you. Is there any trustee have any follow-up questions? Seeing and hearing none, so we move. Thank you so much for the staff for providing this report. So let's move to Special Education Advisory Committee Annual Report, September 2024 to June 2025. Before the committee is the Special Education Advisory Committee Annual Report, September 2024 to June 2025. Is here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Schools, Programs, and Equitable Outcome, KDAQ, and Coordinating Superintendent of Education, Student Services and Wellbeing, Wendy Howe, to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you, and through you, Chair. Last year, SEAC received 10 presentations, including input into the multi-year strategic plan, understanding how processing affects learning, which we refer to as the waterfall document, a presentation by our speech-language pathology team called Sounds Like Fun, which was a hands-on learning opportunity that we rolled out to to teachers last year in support of our early years reading screening, and a presentation from our assistive technology consultants on how technology can support students with disabilities accessing curriculum. We also review policies on a monthly basis, some of which garnered lots of conversation were Policy 668, Caring and Safe Schools, and our transportation policy. Additionally, the annual report demonstrates our fulfillment with the legislated responsibilities of the Special Education Advisory Committee, which include advising the Board of Trustees through input on the budget, as well as approving our annual special education plan that needs to be submitted to the Ministry of Education each July. And with that, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Wendy, for providing this report. Trustees, are there any questions? Seeing and hearing none, so thank you. So let's move to next item, Mathematics Achievement Action Plan. Before the committee is the Mathematics Achievement Action Plan. It's here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Schools, Programs, and Equitable Outcome, Neil Ganathan, Coordinating Superintendent of Education, Curriculum and Instructional Services and Continuing Education, Gillian Gibbon, and Superintendent of Education, Board Math Lead, Elizabeth Law, to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you. And through you, Chair Liang. So good evening. And over the next few minutes, we'll provide an overview of the Math Achievement Action Plan and the implementation proposal for the third year of the plan. So the accompanying report can be found on pages 69 to 73 in your agenda package. So the Mathematics Achievement Action Plan is one of the components of Bill 98, the Better Schools and Student Outcomes Act, and it has as one of its objectives to ensure all school boards are focused on delivering established provincial priorities and to improve accountability and transparency of board performance for the public. So thank you. So it was next slide, and then next slide. You were right, and then you went back. And next slide. Perfect. And then next slide. Sorry, thank you. So the Mathematics Achievement Action Plan is designed to boost math competence in the classroom and improve board accountability. It continues to include Ministry of Education support, and this is through board leads with the focus of helping improve math outcomes for students. So these leads will be responsible for curriculum implementation and standardized training, and it will lead board-wide actions to meet our targets. It also includes math facilitators who provide direct support in our classrooms. There's also support from a ministry math team, and they work directly with school boards on our board plan and provide professional learning sessions for grades 3, 6, and 9 teaching staff. And as well, the provision of digital tools, and we'll discuss that a little bit later. So at this point, I am going to invite Elizabeth Lau, our board math lead, to talk about our data sets, focus areas, and how we will support math in York Region District School Board schools.
Thank you. Next slide, please. The Mathematics Achievement Action Plan's framework has identified 3 priority actions that boards are expected to report on. We are continuing to focus on the 3 areas you see on the slide: ensuring fidelity of curriculum implementation, including the intentional use of proven strategies that support academic math achievement, engaging in ongoing learning on mathematics content knowledge for teaching, knowing the mathematics learner, and ensuring mathematical tasks, interventions, and supports are relevant and responsive. Our ongoing work focuses on students and the staff who are working with them, so they not only have strong content knowledge and can apply it, but they also have a positive attitude towards mathematics and feel confident when they are doing math. Next slide, please. We report on the Math Achievement Action Plan 3 times a year. On November 14th is our initial baseline data, initial strategies, and key performance indicators. On March 27th, 2026 will be our progress report, and we update our progress to improve student outcomes for students in mathematics and data from Term 1 and Semester 1. On July 17th, 2026 will be our final report that outlines the impact of the work done to improve student outcomes and data from Term 2 and Semester 2. We will provide updates at regular intervals throughout the year to share information regarding the Math Achievement Action Plan submissions and updates in progress on the work being done. Next slide, please. When the Math Achievement Action Plan began in 2023-2024, the Ministry of Education selected math priority schools based on over 1,250 schools across the province that achieved in the lowest 20% on EQAO during the 2021-2022 school year. In 2024-2025, our list was updated slightly, and those priority math schools remain the same for the 2025-2026 school year. Next slide, please. In each of the elementary schools identified as a priority school, we have provided staffing for a school-based mathematics facilitator. The role of the math facilitator is to support academic achievement by providing in-class support. These are all teachers who are part of the regular teaching staff, so they are in the schools daily. They work with classroom teachers to identify students' strengths and needs and assist in determining appropriate learning interventions. In secondary schools, support is provided by our secondary math consultant who meets staff weekly. Next slide, please. For the Math Achievement Action Plan, we report on the following data for priority math schools: the number of students who progressed in their level of achievement on mathematics report cards, the number of students supported through curriculum modifications on math report cards. Curriculum expectations can be modified in one of 2 ways. Some students may be working on a reduced number of curriculum expectations at the current grade level, while others may be working at expectations at a different grade level. For example, a student is in grade 6, but is working on grade 5 math expectations. We also report on the number of students whose individual attendance rate is equal to or greater than 90%, and the number of grade 3, 6, and 9 mathematics students who report positive attitudes and confidence in response to the statement, "I am good at math." Next slide, please. When we were last at Lucy, we did not have our final student achievement data to share with you. This slide shows the end-of-year report card information shared on our final report. In grade 3, 205 of 268 students received a level 3 or 4, with 58 students were working on modified expectations. In grade 6, 323 of 442 students achieved a level 3 or 4. 132 were working on modified expectations. In grade 9, 31 of 45 students achieved a level 3 or 4. There were no students on a modified program in grade 9, which is why there is no data reported. The attendance rate shows students whose attendance rate was 90% or greater, and the math attitude is the number of students who responded positively to the statement, "I like math." Next slide, please. This is the data that will be included in the initial report to the ministry. The grade 3 and 6 data on the slide is the same as the previous slide. For the Mathematics Achievement Action Plan, we are moving to a year-over-year comparison, so you can see the end of last year's results as the baseline for this year. The grade 9 data includes both semester 1 and 2 results. We do not have the information for students who will have the IEP box checked on report card 1 yet, as IEPs are being completed at this time. We will have it in time for our submission, and we'll share that data with you at our next update. Next slide, please. On this slide, you will see the focus areas for grade 3 and 6. These foci were selected from a shortlist provided by the Ministry of Education and best align with YRDSB's multi-year strategic plan and district action plan. To support priority action 1, fidelity of the curriculum, we will connect instruction and assessment to curriculum expectations and long-term essential mathematical understandings using developmental continuums. Priority action 2, building content knowledge, focuses on modeling a positive and curious learning stance with mathematics to create an environment where students are excited to learn mathematics and develop into confident math learners. For example, regularly using think alouds, making the problem-solving process explicit, integrating math talk prompts and conversations, co-solving mathematics puzzles and problems with students. The third priority action, knowing the learner, focuses on planning, teaching, and assessing learning in culturally responsive and relevant ways that motivate students to take ownership of their learning and progress in mathematics. Next slide, please. We have different foci for grade 9. These foci were selected again from a short list provided by the Ministry of Education and best aligned with YRDSB's multi-year strategic plan and district action plan. Priority action 2, building content knowledge, is the one area that will be the same for grades 3, 6, and 9. To support priority action 1, fidelity of the curriculum, we will directly connect long-range plans, course outlines, lesson plans, and reporting to current curriculum expectations. For example, educators consulting the curriculum and resources website regularly to ensure alignment. The third priority action, knowing the learner, focuses on determining key content areas informed by EQAO data, including strengths and skills reports, to determine where students may be struggling most and if there are gaps between classroom and EQAO achievement. Next slide, please. To support work in priority schools, board math leads will meet regularly with administrators to support the implementation and monitoring of classroom and school level goals as outlined in the Math Achievement Action Plan. Curriculum consultants will work with math facilitators and administrators regularly to build capacity and support the comprehensive math program and instruction and assessment practices in grade 3, 6, and 9 classrooms. The math team is already connected with administrators and math facilitators in schools. Math facilitators and grade 3, 6, and 9 teachers will be invited to attend 6 Ministry of Education virtual math contact sessions. We had our first elementary priority school meeting last week on Thursday, October 9th, with priority school superintendents, principals, vice principals, and math facilitators in attendance. Next slide, please. As a system, these are the learning opportunities and supports we will be focusing on. Supporting the fidelity of the curriculum implementation and the use of high-impact instructional and assessment practices, increasing mathematical content knowledge for teaching based on the curriculum and the continuum of math learning across grades, using assessment data and prior math knowledge to aid in understanding the mathematics learner and implementing relevant and responsive interventions and instructional planning, identifying students with special education needs and implementing strategies aimed at improving their math achievement, continuing to use digital math tools, Math Up Classroom and Math Up Student for students in kindergarten to grade 9 to support the understanding of current student learning levels and provide targeted supports for students. Next slide, please. Thank you for your time this evening, and we are happy to take any questions that you may have.
Yeah, thank you, staff, for providing this report. So, trustees, are there any questions? The chair recognizes Trustee Butterworth to ask question.
Thank you very much, Chair, and through you. Could I ask you to go back to the slide on page 10? It was 10 on the screen. In our report, I think it's page 72. So I don't know if that helps you or not. anyway, it's the chart, the baseline data for the initial report. Yeah, okay, thank you. So a couple of things, like I'm noticing from the chart, like the first and foremost, attendance rate. You know, only like 164 out of 268 grade 3 kids, which is about 61%, are, what is that, attending 90% or more? Is that how you describe it? Grade 6, I haven't done the percentage yet, but still, there's an attendance rate isn't as high. And then you look at, you know, grade 9, 38 out of 83, 38 kids out of the 83 have a good attendance rate. That's concerning, and I know that's not just a York Region problem, but when we're looking at the goals and our plans and so on, are we doing, like, is there something, and I don't know what it is, but it's something to address the attendance pieces, like when we say know our learners, why are they missing classes and so on. The second part to that is the math attitude. It's sad, really, when, you know, in grade 9, I'm looking, and this is my high school in my area, only 16% think that they're good at math going to grade 9. I think that's sad. You know, 24% in grade 6 only think they're good at it. 38% think they're good at it. Again, in our plan, we're looking at fidelity of the curriculum, knowing our learner, and so on. But that piece about knowing our learner, what can we do to help that whole self-concept of I'm better at math? And I know that's more of maybe a philosophical question and so on, and there's no right answer, one answer for that. But those numbers I find are concerning, and that's a big part of, you know, why our math numbers for these priority schools aren't where they're at. So I'm interested in your feedback on that, please, and thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for the question, Trustee Butterworth. Absolutely, attendance is a little concerning. If a student attends less than 90%, they have been away for a fair chunk of time. So something that we've noticed is our attitudes towards attendance have changed since COVID. Students who are ill are more likely to stay home and for longer periods of time. And some parents have a little more flexibility to work from home and can keep children home when they are ill. Our families are also less concerned about missed time as we were able to adjust during COVID. So part of our work towards supporting attendance rate is really messaging to families about the importance of regular school attendance. So that sometimes comes across through regular school newsletters, sharing of data supporting achievement and attendance, and government monitoring on reports like this to understand attendance patterns and provide support to school boards through messaging. With regards to math competence, and those are somewhat low scores in grade 3, 6, and 9, we do have a focus goal on improving math attitudes because there is a link between positive attitudes and success. Improving staff confidence in teaching mathematics, which we know translates to confidence in student attitudes as well. And creating variety in classroom instruction that includes multiple opportunities for students, for instance, collaborative problem solving, real-world math application, math games, and direct instruction. So when we support the math learning in the classroom in a way that students feel engaged, that supports their confidence. And when you can talk to other students about the math that you're learning, that also builds our math confidence with our students. So that is an ongoing goal and a very specific focus that we'll be working on this coming year.
On that one slide, it's not really, it's more spread out in our report, but on the one slide you had specific things about, you know, what we're looking at. It's, I don't know, is that something we need to specifically spell out in terms of attendance and like, you know, their feelings and their attitudes toward math? Is that something we need to specifically address? Because I don't, from what I'm seeing there, it isn't something specifically listed.
Yeah, it is. Thank you for the question. So the Ministry of Education, we send in our reports. Those are two areas that they're looking for, are looking at is the attendance rates greater than 9% and the math competence. So because we've recognized the numbers aren't where we want that to be, we realize that that's an area that we do need to focus on, and that is kind of woven in through the 3 priority actions as well as we do as we move forward this year.
Okay, I get it. I'm kind of reading between the lines, but do we need to be more specific? Don't need to answer, just something to think about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So is he Julin? Want to
Sorry.
share something?
Thank you. If I can just add into to your request, this is obviously the data is concerning, as Superintendent Lau indicated. We have one of the we had 3 priority goals, and those goals are from a short list that the ministry provides, but one of the ones that we chose to focus on in there is related very specifically to creating engagement with students, making math more engaging, to build that confidence in them, and that sentence to say, yes, I love math. And so that is a big part of it. And as Superintendent Lau said, a lot of that is in the way the instruction happens and the confidence in our teachers. So when our teachers feel confident teaching it, that they exude that out to students, they're able to change, up the teaching on the fly to students as they get questions. But the other thing too is really they get more comfortable also providing a variety of different learning modes and really making connections a lot more to real world problems, to problem solving and getting in there and engaging in math talk. So that is one of the priorities that we are working on, and when they meet regularly with the priority schools, that is one of the areas that the schools identify the different ways they're doing, and a lot of the professional learning does support that.
Thank you. So Chair recognizes Trustee McCarthy to ask question.
Thank you, Chair Liang, and through you, thank you for that presentation. Math is something close to my heart, so I appreciate that. I agree with the concern of the attendance and the importance that we put on our instructors, and I appreciate the training that you're doing with the instructors. My question is, how are we measuring if that instruction to our instructors or training to our instructors is effective? How are we managing those results? I assume that we are managing that. So I'm just curious how you are managing, because of course it comes back to the teacher always, right? Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you for the question. We do have monitoring pieces in place. So one of those is around, we have a key performance indicators that we report onto the ministry, and one of them is a shift in practice. And so our math facilitators are in classrooms, our consultants are supporting. It's roughly bi-weekly, but it really depends on when the school, so it might be a couple of days you spend in a school and a couple of days at another. So they are working closely with teachers in classrooms. We have also asked this year, almost like a weekly monitoring piece. It's just kind of record things that you're doing as a math facilitator to support the teachers in your building. And our consultants are following up with the principals and VPs as well. So that is one way that we are measuring that, is that shift in practice. And that is through observation in the classroom. So if we are seeing students engaged in more collaborative problem solving, if we see the shift in how the teacher is instructing and then assessing the work to plan the instruction in a responsive way to the students, those are the types of things that we're measuring and monitoring right now. We also do the surveys with our staff, so when we are facilitating professional learning on specific topics, we take kind of survey data before, during, and after, and look at that as comparison pieces as well. But a lot of it is shift in practice, and those are things that we observe when we go in and visit classrooms at different times, and that is also the work of our principals and vice principals and our math priority schools when they are walking through the classrooms at different times to observe and monitor that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Chair recognizes Trustee Mamun to ask question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just through you, just curious to know, it's page 3 of 5 on the report. We have picked the same schools for the 25-26 years as they were in the previous year. Is there any rationale, is there any reason that we're keeping the same schools rather than picking a new? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. We were able to, after our first year, we were able to review our list of schools, and as we said, we shifted some of our schools for a couple different reasons. So that first year, the data was from 21-22, and so it might have been a bit of an anomaly year for that school. We looked at data before and after that as well. So in 2024-25, which was last year, the ministry gave us an opportunity to shift some of our schools. This current year, we were asked to keep our same schools by the ministry, so we weren't able to shift or wiggle any of the schools that we had supporting. We were also intentional that we did want to keep the same schools. We have now worked consistently, some of them for 3 years now, and to keep on leveraging and building on the work that our math facilitators are doing in classrooms and the work that they're doing in the school. We wanted to keep the same schools regardless, but the ministry also had asked that we not shift our schools this year.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Trustee Cohen to ask question.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just a quick question. I was wondering if we have noticed a difference between male and female achievement or interest in math. I know that's always been an issue, and I'm wondering where we are with that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Trustee Cohen. We don't, when we send out our confidence surveys, we actually don't differentiate between male and female students. So with the particular data that we're presenting, we actually haven't differentiated between. We don't have our EQA results yet for this year. So we haven't been able to do that analysis either yet, but we will share that when we have that available to us.
Thank you. So the chair have one question regarding to the strategic plan for action plan for the achievement for math. So we have a low attendance if we talk about that part, right? So do we have any plan? Do we have so when we can provide more comparison data to see our improvement?
Thank you for the question, Chair Liang. When we monitor attendance, right now we collect that kind of baseline, which would be now, which really isn't any data, that's using last year's data. We'll collect it again in February after first term report card, so we'll be able to do a comparison then, and then again at the end of the year. That's how we're monitoring and comparing the attendance rate data. I'm not sure that I fully answered your question.
Do we have a strategic plan, or do we have an action plan? So to say how can we be able to improve the attendance, or how can we improve the attitude?
So I spoke briefly before about some of our supports for improving attendance. So in addition to reiterating the importance of attendance and achievement at school, many of our school principals and vice principals work with families and different supports in the system to support attendance at school. And sometimes there are different reasons why students aren't attending. So that is another avenue that some of our very specific schools are using to support students. With regards to the confidence and attitude, to reiterate again, we're really working on when we support the math confidence of teachers and instruction, when we engage our students in learning in ways that are meaningful to them, we hope to improve their attitude towards math and confidence in math moving forward.
Thank you. The chair see no any other trustees' name appearing to speaker list. Thank you so much for staff for providing this report. So we move to next item. G, annual employment report status update. Before the committee is the annual employment report. Status update is here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Schools, Programs, and Equitable Outcome, Neil Ganathan, and Coordinating Superintendent of Education, Human Resources Services, People and Culture, Steve Gardner, to present this report. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Chair Liang, and through you. I'm going to join the front of the podium as I'm surrounded by our wonderful team. And together with our interdepartmental team, with myself, Rosemary Cameron, to my right, who's the Senior Manager of Human Resource Services. And to her right is BC Omajola, who is our Manager of Recruitment and Retention. And then to my left, the manager, Erhan Senhe, who is the Manager of Research and Assessment Services, who has been absolutely wonderful in supporting us in bringing data together. So tonight, we'll be sharing this year's annual employment report, and in this report, we'll be highlighting our work this past year, as well as our hiring statistics and planned next steps. And if you can advance the slide, please. Thank you. There are a number of foundational documents and data sources that are used to inform tonight's presentation, and you'll see that on screen. We have from 2017, the employment equity audit that took place that you would have seen in the board report with a series of recommendations. Bring us to 2021, we have Policy Program Memorandum 165 by the Ministry of Education, which provided direction to school boards in aligning hiring practices to support the development and implementation of fair, consistent, and transparent teaching, hiring policies, and processes. And then with that, we fast forward to what you see under 2021 as well. As a result of PPM 165, we created the YRDSB Teaching Hiring Protocol. It was established, and namely, and BC will speak to that as we get into the presentation, but namely to identify the components of a teacher hiring policy that school boards are expected to adopt with recommended effective practices to ensure that all employment policies and practices are anti-discriminatory. And Sonia, if you can advance the slide, please. To ground the presentation tonight, we wish to continue to highlight that the York Region District School Board remains committed to equitable and inclusive hiring practices to develop a workforce that is representative of the diversity of York Region. And what this slide does in front of you, this slide details our commitment to diversifying the workforce through equitable and inclusive hiring practices. And there are a number of key areas that we will focus on. To get there, we'll focus on the ongoing review of relevant policies and procedures with a particular focus on Policy and Procedure 532, which is the recruitment and promotion process. Our ongoing monitoring and adjustment to all hiring practices, including the analysis of data to track and evaluate our progress. And then thirdly, understanding and supporting the role of hiring managers and administrators at the local level, and we do that because they know their context. The goal is to ensure our staff reflects the diverse communities in which we serve, enhancing both representation and inclusivity. And to put a number on table for all of us, since 2021, 55% of York Region residents identify as racialized. As such, the YRDSB is committed to equitable and inclusive hiring practices, again, to develop a workforce that is representative of the diverse region we call York Region. And if we could advance the slide, please. And tonight's presentation we'll talk about the current status with regard to the employment equity audit, where we'll focus on 4 areas. We'll look at, with that, the comprehensive approach to this ensures we address representation and hiring practices, workplace culture, and leadership development holistically. So with that, if we can advance the slide one more time. Thank you, Sonia. This slide that you see on screen is a bit of a placeholder slide, but it really serves as an entry point to the employment equity audit status update. Again, what you would see in your packages tonight for the 24-25 period. And if you could advance the slide again, please. Thank you. And the slide that you have in front of you now, this is an update on the employment equity audit. It shows that 84% of recommendations have been fully implemented, with 16% still in progress and will continue to be our ongoing work. One of the pieces that we want to be able to highlight when we talk in terms of that 84% recommendations implemented, they're implemented and will continue to be, is an important piece that want to be able to highlight, but also don't want to lead trustees in a different direction. We're talking around recommendations in progress. Those recommendations are in progress, will continue to be and inform the work that we do. So the pie chart visually emphasizes the progress made with many recommendations either fully implemented or embedded in the ongoing work, as I note, reflecting our strong commitment to advancing equity goals. And if we could advance the slide again, please. And what this slide really becomes an overview by way of recommendations implemented and in progress, similar to the last slide and what you would have seen in your agenda package, but we've broken it down across the 4 areas. And again, to be able to advance the slide one more time, and I'm going to pass it on to Rosemary Cameron to talk to us about policy and procedure.
Thank you, Steve. Good evening, everyone. So as part of our equity audit update employment report, I'm going to be talking about the policy and procedure updates. And these are recommendations that was in the actual equity audit. So one of the things that we do on an annual basis is review our policies and procedures and help them update them accordingly to ensure that they are meeting the recommendations. So policy 240, the Human Rights Code related harassment and discrimination policy, we have now made some updates to that policy to ensure that management and administrators are being reminded of their duties and responsibilities regarding stopping and addressing harassment and discrimination through consultation we provided by the HR Human Rights Office to management and admin, and also to one of the things that we do on an ongoing basis as well is the human rights training and update the policy 240 language to reflect these recommended changes. So I'm going to move on to the next slide. So policy, another policy that we updated as well is the policy 250, violence prevention and intervention and non-code related harassment and discrimination. And this is again in accordance with recommendation 62. So one of the things that we have done this year, we have updated flow chart outlining investigation procedures have been developed to provide clarity for administrators, managers, and employees. This initiative was developed in collaboration with the unions, the Joint Health and Safety Committee, and other relevant partners. So one of the things we do is focus to ensure that our procedures are relevant and that we do consultation to ensure that they are. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm going to turn it over to Busy Omadrola.
Thank you. Good evening. I'll talk about the tools and resources that we have deployed and will continue to deploy in order to reduce or eliminate in totality bias. Next slide, please. Okay. So part of the tools and resources that we have deployed and we continue to deploy are the toolkits. The toolkits are the general guidelines that we give on to our teaching staff, the support staff, as well as the corporate, administrative, and management professional staff as well. It guides how we do our hiring processes, who does what, when it's done, and how it should be done, all in a bid to reduce and eliminate bias. Another thing we've deployed is the human rights anti-discrimination and bias training. This has been completed by all hiring managers and administrators. We continue to have online, annual online refresher training as well. It's offered to support ongoing trainings and awareness. Recently in this school year, 2024-2025, we deployed 2 new modules to reduce and eliminate bias in totality. The 2 modules are one, the neutralizing unconscious biases in our workplace, and the second module is the neutralizing bias strategies for fair and inclusive hiring practices. These are part of the tools and resources that we've deployed to reduce and eliminate bias. Next slide, please. Okay. So we've also have an enhanced hiring tracking. The system-wide training is being deployed to all administrators to enhance their use of applicant tracking system for monitoring current hiring activities. We've also had the integration of the applicant tracking system with the HRIS, that's the Human Resources Information Systems, which enables improved and systematic tracking of all employee hiring at the point of hire, all through the hiring process on an ongoing basis. The initial system integration of data reporting has been successfully completed, and we continue to work on integrating other parts of this process for more data reporting. Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, we're going to take a moment to look at priority one, which is the diversification of the workforce at all levels. This section looks at workforce representation data from the staff census, as well as hiring data from applied to education. This ongoing monitoring of these data sets ensures accountability and guides continuous improvement in diversifying the workforce. And BC earlier talked about applied to education, affectionately known as ATE, amongst human resource services and educators certainly, or those in the educational sector. And it really is an intake platform in which jobs are posted and applicants can apply. So you'll hear that phrase applied to education throughout tonight's presentation. And with that, we'll take an opportunity to look at our hiring data from applied education. We're going to look at the annual response rates for demographic questions, an overview on racialized staff, hiring, and thirdly, hiring rates or distribution of identity groups among hired staff. If you can advance the slide, please. It's important to note that all race and identity data is based on staff self-identification, collected either at time of hire or through the workforce census. So you can see that there are two different entry points, if you will, for the self-identification by way of race. In the last workforce census, which we highlighted was 2021, 2022, we had approximately 90% of respondents provided race and identity data. If we could advance the slide, please. And as shared, all race and identity data is derived from staff self-identification at time of hire or again at census taking. And as we noted, the last census had approximately 90% of respondents sharing this data with us, which was an increase from our last workforce census. And we believe that this increase can be attributed to many factors, including staff feeling more comfortable when disclosing this information to the board. And a couple of nuggets that you see on the screen are critical by way of understanding trend data. If we look in terms of school board hires, tend to be long-term hires, and overall system change occurs over a longitudinal study. Just if I look at my colleagues in the room, the number of years that we've been together with certainly in education and the board, certainly representative of that longitudinal hire, if you will. While we are looking for change and immediate impact, we're also concerned with the long-term hiring trend to ensure that we have positive growth towards our overall goal of reflecting the diversity of all identities within York Region. And from our data, you'll see that on screen, 52% of our most recent hires have identified as racialized, compared to 17% of staff with 21 to 30 years experience working for the board. And the following slide, one of the things that we'll do is graphically, visually, be able to note this. So if we can advance the slide, please. And with this, the chart illustrates racialized staff proportions by length of service, revealing that more than half of recent hires are racialized. And we look at that on my right, the far right of the screen, we see that 52% of hires with having less than 1 year experience. We go down to the other end of the spectrum. The example that I gave moments ago, we're talking in terms of those staff with more than 30 years experience. We see identified as racialized lying at 10%. So we can see a significant difference over that period of time. Would suggest that this indicates successful recruitment efforts towards diversity, although longer serving staff tend to be less racialized diverse, reflecting historical workforce composition. With that, if we can advance excuse me, the slide again. And this slide provides an overview of the response rates of each of the selected employee groups for Indigenous identity and racial background questions. So earlier I talked in terms of applied education. With applied education, the platform for application for positions, you have an opportunity to identify yourself as there's a question to be able to identify yourself as Indigenous or racialized. And what you see on the screen by different groups, by way of elementary vocational teachers, secondary vocational teachers, caretakers, DCs, all along the line to our library technicians, EA, DSWs, and ISWs. You can see the response rate for each. So to show that for you, to just represent that we're almost 89% of all of our apply to education applicants, if you will, across different employee groups. Felt comfortable in terms of identifying by race, if you will. And if we can advance again, please. Now, with that, we want to take an opportunity to look at specific employee groups. And one of the things that this slide does, and you can see the data in front of you, the slide summarizes the breakdown of racial identity groups for our principal and vice principals who have been added to the admin hiring pool over the last 8 years. So again, our admin hiring pool are soon to be placed, vice principals and principals, so they're not placed in schools, but they've been hired by way of going through our principal and vice principal selection process and waiting to be placed. For instance, last year, 24-25 out of 48 principal and vice principals added to the hiring pool, 4.2% identified as Black, 6.3% as East Asian, 2.1% identified as Latino or Latina or Latinx, 20.8% as South Asian, 2.1% identified themselves as Southeast Asian, and again, keep in mind that's through self-identification. 31.3% as white, and then we have 33.3% did not self-identify. As an example being they selected, there's a box, if you will, prefer not to answer or did not respond to that question. Overall, there's been increases in many of the racialized groups over the year, which indicates an improvement in hiring for diversity, as we opened with, and you'll see in the recommendation number 1 in the board report that was shared. For example, proportions of administrators who identified as South Asian increased from 2.2 in 2017-2018 to 20.8 in 24-25, and keeping in mind that the equity audit began in 2017-2018, so certainly concerted effort to increase the hiring of staff. And if we could advance the slide, please. Thank you. Now, in line with our hiring cycle, that brings us to August 2024 versus partial years through the nature of the tracking of the data. So one of the things that we're very conscious of when we look in terms of our data is to make it the data that is shared with you is fulsome and whole. The data that we have now allows us to go to August 2024. So it's full data at this point. This slide further unpacks our hiring by race and employee category over the last full year of hiring. Each of the identified races represented by recommendations from our initial equity audit report that called on the board to increase our hiring within each racial group. Since you know the majority of hired staff, again over 93%, responded to the race question within each of these employee groups, we looked at the breakdown of racial identity groups for 23-24. This is the last full year of hiring data that has been confirmed for these groups. And again, the 24-25 data is still being received and confirmed. So if we can advance the slide again, please. And if we can shift gears for a moment and an opportunity to focus on the creation of more equitable practices, which was priority 3, to create equitable employment policies and processes which support hiring, retention, and advancement of qualified and diverse workforce. And one way to monitor this is to examine the impact of the Indigenous and Racialized Leaders Program as one example. Another area we'll monitor is the retention of staff using the years of service as a proxy measure. And it can bring you back to the chart or the graph that showed from 0 to 30 years of experience. So with that, and I look to my colleagues in this room. I have Mr. Dane Lawrence Prince, who's one of our leads in this program, and through his work over the past few years, and certainly the Indigenous and Racialized Leaders Program will continue under the leadership of, as I look to my right, and Elizabeth Lau is here as well. She'll be leading this program with Superintendent Fothrop for this year. And one of the things that we're excited of some of the changes and refresh, if you will, to this program, and I'll talk to that in just a moment, but also the System Leadership Learning Program led through the leadership of, in this case, Grant Fothrop, Superintendent Fothrop, and Superintendent Dane Lawrence Prince also. If we can advance the slide, please, Sonia. So speaking to the Indigenous and Racialized Leadership Program, so we have a slide here with where that depicts program from its inception, 2019-20, to last year, 2024-25, to give you an idea of numbers. So the slide details participation in the mentorship program and learning series over those years, showing engagement across Indigenous, Black, East Asian, and South Asian groups. And again, the reason that we have those groups identified, we bring us back to racial identified groups, self-identified groups where we found our numbers were lower than that, certainly within our student population and our census population, recognizing that there is a need to increase those numbers, again, to match our communities. The data reflects the ongoing investment in leadership development to support equity and inclusion within the board. And this slide provides the number of participants for the last 5 years. And right now, in the bottom number, we have 201 participants, to date, and will continue to grow. And Sonia, if you could advance the slide one more time again, please. And one of the things that we want to be able to highlight is the Indigenous and Racialized Leadership Program has successfully supported many participants in obtaining formal leadership positions or leadership roles, including consultants, vice principals, and principals. And one of the things that this slide does is highlights the program's positive impact on advancing equity in leadership positions across racial groups. So it's a slide that you would have seen similar to the last year. We added to those numbers. We talked about in terms of since its inception, 41 staff have acquired formal leadership positions within the board. And with that, if you can advance the slide, please. So moments ago, we talked in terms of 2 programs that we're quite proud of in terms of increasing leadership opportunities. Last year, we came to you and shared that the System Leadership Learning Program, affectionately known as SLLP program, was being developed for this year. And on the screen, I won't read each of those nuggets to you, but really speaks to the outcomes or the goals of those programs. Again, making connections to the leadership framework and an opportunity to gain some system leadership learning, in essence, of what the program was. And the following slide, what that does is shows you an opportunity. If you bring us back to last year when we introduced it, excited to be able to share participation, and now we have the numbers in which to share. So we have total participants of 23, and they were from our corporate management side. We had 3 managers, 12 principals, elementary, 2 secondary principals, and we had 6 centrally assigned principals, giving us a total of 23. And that is looking once again to expand that this year. And if we can advance, please. Where are we going? And we've highlighted, or want to be able to highlight, a number of recommendations for next steps. So our ongoing work includes an annual review of board policies and procedures. So Rosemary earlier talked about policy 250 and 240 and some of the changes in the status update to that. In this case, to embed equity audit recommendations, our continued monitoring of hiring data to track workforce diversity, conducting the next workforce census, and I think we highlighted this a couple of times, and I know it's a question that came up last year as well, but to highlight 2027, 28 school year will be the next year in which we'll conduct the workforce census. In addition to that, regularly updating our hiring toolkits, as BC walked us through, to support equitable practices. And if we might advance it one more time, please. From there, continuing on where we are going. We want to be able to look at new initiatives that focus on developing systemic annual collection of demographic data for all staff to enhance employment equity monitoring. Additionally, plans include creating mechanisms to monitor and report on pay equity, promotions, and employee retention, ensuring comprehensive equity oversight. And with that, we thank you and we welcome any questions that you might have.
Thank you, staff, for providing this report. So, Trustee, are there any questions? No. So, the chair recognizes Trustee Mamun to ask question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a question, the two comments I have. One is that our queries, there's 70 recommendations in this report, right? Some of them are like ongoing work. Would we always or will keep them open forever, or they will be closed at some point? For example, look at number 47. We will inform people when the elevator is not working. Okay, well, it could be today, it could be tomorrow again, right? So just curious on that, if I can ask that, and I'll have another question later on.
Thank you. Happy to answer that, and through you, Chair Liang. Trustee Mahmood, yeah, so out of the recommendations, as I noted, there are some that will show as implemented or complete, and they will be continuing. If we think it's 2017 in which the recommendations were put forth. The conversation that we're having certainly within Human Resources, and you'll see that there's a number of hands with different departments from Human Resource Services, Curriculum Instructional Services, Human Rights Office are part of that. At what point do we graduate out the recommendations? Because the truth, you look at 74 and it almost presents as, wait a minute, we've got X number of years, we haven't completed. So we're very mindful of sort of the graphic that had the two circles and recognizing that the in progress is the in progress. I think it's an excellent point that you raise, that as we move forward, look to graduate. It's part of our continued work, because I think there's some muscle memory and it's ingrained in what we do, and we take pride in that. I think in terms of there's that opportunity to graduate some of those recommendations out as well, because it's part of our culture within the board. So appreciate the question, conversation that we've had as team and as senior team in terms of where that would fit in. So that is our goal as we move forward with the annual employment report. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Can I ask a follow-up question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Or second question, so not a follow-up question. Just as a suggestion, so I know that we do a lot of internal leadership development, right? And that's where your role comes into the play. Do we have a process in place? And this is, I'm talking from an experience of a matrix. For example, I'm standing here and I want to be the director. Not that I'm looking for that. Just as an example of that. What would it take me? What competencies I need to develop to get there, right? Internally. And then during that journey, if there is a mechanism of providing a regular feedback to the employees who are interested to make that progress and then want to get there some way or one day, right? Do you have that in process? Thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And through you, Chair. Trustee Mahmood, so one of the things that I'd say that we take great pride in is our leadership, YRDSB leadership framework. And the leadership framework is such that we have one for administrators, we have one for superintendents, we have one for corporate management, professional staff as well. And I'd suggest that this is a bit of a guidepost by way of the sort of the competencies, to use some of your language, around what we espouse leadership to be. So when we look at our learning programs, and I look to my colleague Superintendent Fothrop, who leads leadership development engagement, the programs for all of our staff across all employee groups will use the leadership framework as a foundational document around growth, and you're talking from success, where succession planning falls in, where again we all want to be Director Cover, but where succession planning falls in, that framework really is that guide. So when we look at Trying to think in terms of top of head, some of our programs. Okay, K-12 network. So again, we have for our office, school office staff on the corporate side will use the leadership framework as a guide for professional growth. Right, so that is the mechanism in which we use our induction programs for new vice principals, principals, and corporate staff. Also, there's a coaching and mentoring component to that. So with that allows for sort of career trajectory, projection, moving forward in career, and again using the leadership framework as a guide, if you will, for that. So I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yeah, thank you. The chair recognizes Trustee Cohen to ask question.
Oops. Thank you very much, Chair. Okay, so there's so many statistics, it's amazing, but I get overwhelmed sometimes with a lot of statistics. So can you make this simple for a simple-minded person? So the question is, how do we set up the hiring process to achieve our goals? So I know we have goals, certain goals that you've explained to us. So we advertise an opening for a principal.
Yes.
And 20 individuals, write or apply to this position. But we have in mind, we need certain, we have certain priorities. So what do? We've got 20 individuals, they're all highly qualified, male, female, different races, different experience. What do we do? Thank you.
Through you, Trustee Lang and Trustee Cohen, big question. And so you talk in terms of data and needed to bring it down. That is me. So already we have something in common. If I can take an opportunity to give an example that I hope will answer the question by a particular group. So BC had an opportunity to speak in terms of our teaching, our hiring toolkit for teachers. And one of the things that we take great pride in by way of hiring right now is the bit of a shift from centralized hiring to decentralized hiring. So our hiring managers have an opportunity. We know our departments, we know our schools. So our schools now and principals are able to do those hirings. Our departments are able to do those hirings. So it's around the importance of context and knowing needs within department or school. So BC talked a little bit about our hiring toolkit, and one of the things that I just have in front of me is a bit of a prompt, because I think hopefully it speaks to your question, answers your question. So one of the things within the teaching hiring toolkit, if you will, talk about a fair hiring process. And within that, so gone are the days of Regulation 274, that was by seniority. Now there's an opportunity to get, there's posted on applied education, I have the qualifications, and if I have the qualifications, I have an opportunity and to be at play for that particular teaching job. But one of the things to your question, Trustee Cohen, I'd suggest is that, in appointing candidates to a teaching position, whether it's long-term, occasional, or permanent, the board will, and a couple of nuggets to keep in mind, and I'll add. So qualification need to be qualified in that particular primary, junior, or intermediate, particular science or subject discipline in secondary, right? Consider merit to include formal qualifications and credentials, professional skills, aptitudes, candidates' lived experience, candidates' background, varied work experience that may be considered valuable to the position. Candidates' ability to speak multiple languages in addition to English and French. Candidates' experience in working with diverse communities. So there are some nuggets by way of consideration, guidelines, supports to keep in mind where you have, to your question, around 20 candidates. How might I narrow that down? Hiring's taking place decentralized within the school. I know my school community, and therefore I do keep those pieces in mind when hiring. Does that answer the question? If not, I'm happy to go on.
May I answer? Yes,
Yes, go ahead.
that's great. I'm just curious. I know that we usually score for each answer, and sometimes we have outside scores for different criteria. So do we have, other than the education, the back, all that we normally score for per question answered, do we have other criteria that gets a score other than the actual interview?
So we have a for teachers. I'll speak to that for a moment, and I can look to Rosemary, perhaps on the corporate side, if you want to be able to speak to that. We have, there's a practicum. So the practicum is more in terms of the what would you do? What do you? There's a philosophical side to it to be able to get to understand and know that person. So you're writing a written practicum prior to the interview. So that part is scored, becomes part of that total hiring package, if you will. We continue to land by way of the interview scoring, and the scorings are the questions are based on themes as well. So sort of the holistic view of hiring. We move into sort of references as that final stage as well. So we'd like to think that there's a bit of a full 360 view of that candidate, from practicum to interview to references in that regard. I don't know, Rosemary, from the corporate side, if there's anything you could add.
So I just want to add as well too, in the actual questioning, we always have an equity question as well, because we want to have weight for equity as well. So that is always a part of the interview process for all of our jobs. So we do that as well. And on the corporate side, we do, based on the identity data, we also look in terms of the makeup of the teams that we have and decide what, I'm going to use HR for example. Over the last, we had 7 managers position posted, and 4 of the 7 managers that got appointed were racialized. So just to use HR over the last 4 years, I'll use that data. And also one of the things that we look for again is to make sure that equity is included in the questionnaire as part of the evaluations.
Yeah, certainly, BC.
So in addition to that, we also ensure that we have a diverse interview panel, so that there's a good representation amongst the panel members. Also, we ensure that anybody interviewing for us would have taken the 2 modules to eradicate bias in our hiring process. I hope this helps.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, staff, for providing this report. So any other trustee have any questions? Seeing and hearing none. So thank you. So let's move to H, Student Awards 2024-2025. Before the committee is the Student Award 2024-2025 is here for our information. The chair recognizes Associate Director of Education, Schools, Programs, and Equitable Outcome, Neil Ganathan, and Superintendent of Education, Schools, and System Operation. So Laura listed to present this report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. And through you, I'm very happy to be the final agenda item this evening, and I think it's a very good news story. I won't be too long. You do have the report in front of you. I would like to highlight a few things for your consideration and also to share our financial accountability with the board. There are a number of awards in front of you. The first one, the Director's Achievement Award. There were 87 recipients of the Director's Achievement Award for the 24-25 school year, and you can see that based on the population of a secondary school, some schools are able to give out a few more Director's Achievement Awards than smaller schools. Appendix B, the SLG Chapman Scholarship in Mathematics recipient. This is quite a prestigious award awarded to a student with the highest overall average in the 3 grade 12 math subjects in the school. And in 2024-25, the recipient of this award was Amanja Hoja Tolaslami from Newmarket High School, and she is at the University of Waterloo, majoring in electrical engineering, and that $600 award is helping her in those future endeavors. Appendix C refers to our Student Trustee Award for Character, and we had 34 recipients from our secondary schools for the Student Trustee Award. Appendix D references our elementary academic accomplishment awards from elementary schools for grade 8 students. And we had 189 recipients of the Elementary Academic Accomplishment Award. Appendix E is our Secondary Academic Accomplishment Award, and we had 77 recipients of those awards in the 24-25 school year. Appendix F, Ontario scholars do not carry a financial award with them, but we do continue to report them to this committee. And in York Region, in the 24-25 school year, there were 7,813 Ontario scholars. And I know that many of the trustees, along with my superintendent colleagues, have the pleasure of attending our graduation ceremonies, both elementary and secondary, and are able to see some of these awards presented to our students. Our final Appendix G shows the breakdown of money that was awarded by the board to these awards, with the total cost for last year just over $32,000. Thank you for your attention. I'm happy to take any questions you may have.
Thank you, staff, for providing the report. So I see the chair recognize Trustee McCarthy to ask question.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the report. I'm just curious, how are these recipients selected? Please, thank you. Through you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you for the question. In each of the appendices, you will see the selection criteria for the awards. So most of them are made by a graduation committee. In a few examples, there are the principal that's making the decision. The Ontario Scholar Award is determined by the students' grades and average. But each school has a graduation committee or an awards committee, and because these awards represent just the board monetary awards, so most schools also have their own individual school-based awards, so it's important that each school has a team that makes those decisions collaboratively.
Thank you. I wasn't clear if it was school specific. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The chair recognizes Trustee Mamun to ask question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just through you, curious to know, would board be ever open to receive sponsorships for some of these awards, or start awarding more of these, open it to outsiders if they want to sponsor it, certain schools, certain categories, you know? Just curious to know that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question, and through you, Madam Chair, we do have a process to allow people who are interested in sponsoring award to do so. They have to work through myself and through our quality assurance department so that we ensure the monies are spent appropriately and above board, but we do accept private donations for awards. Many of them are school-based rather than board-based, but the SLG Chapman is a good example of one that is board-based.
Thank you. So you are saying that there are, as a follow-up, Madam Chair, there are at school level, there's an opportunities for people or the families or foundations to come forward and then do that, and then they should go through you. Okay, excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other trustee? I do not see any other trustee's name appearing to speaker list. So thank you. So we move to date of a next meeting. The next Learning Equity Wellbeing Standing Committee meeting is on November 18, 2025. Adjournment, as there's no further business, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Did I do that?